I just went out to look for a deck to commit to. I found the Amulet Titan Summer Bloom deck, which back at that time was like an absolute meme deck and no one played it. And I was like, oh yeah, that's neat. Like the combination of Amulet of Vigor and Bounce Lands and Summer Bloom into Primal Titan just all fits so neatly into one thing. And you know, you get to summon a Primal Titan on turn 2, that's pretty cool. But certainly my ego was getting into the way of learning more about playing constructed, and like I try to like argue that there is like not that much skill involved in playing Magic well, and like that anyone can play those cards, and like kind of silly, but confidence in my head that like I was thinking that like I win on Magic Online because Amulet is great and like no one else knows that, and I just like accidentally discovered it. But there's more to it than I thought in Constructed too, and I opened myself to the idea that maybe I still have a lot to learn, and I did.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Humans of Magic. I'm your host, James Hsu. This week, we've got an interview with Piotr Glogowski, also known as Kanister. Kanister is one of the most famous Polish Magic pros and players around. He's done a lot of wonderful things as far as high-level play, Pro Tours, and Mythic Championships are concerned. This is a deep dive into Piotr's level-up process, a wide-ranging interview that talks about his why of becoming a Magic player. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Kanister. I actually just wanted to start off by asking you, like, maybe we could just go right into the backstory. Obviously, you are well known for being a Magic pro. You have done quite a lot in the Magic the Gathering world. As I understand it, you are based in Poland and you're from Poland. But
Yes.
How did you even initially get into the game in the first place? Were you a gamer before then? I'm just curious as to your Magic origin story.
Yeah, I was like playing card games since I was a kid. Basically, when I was a kid, I got really into this animated show, Duel Masters, which was about the Duel Masters card game, which is I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's kind of like it's kind of based on Magic a little bit, and was also released by Wizards, but also mostly in Japan. It's still going strong in Japan, but hasn't been released in outside of that for a long time now. That kind of served as my introduction. I played that for a few years when that game existed, and then because of me liking that game and spending a lot of time on it as a kid, when later in my life one of my friends mentioned that he used to play Magic, I was like, oh okay, let's try that. I played a similar game and then just kickstarted off like that.
How was Duel Masters as a game? Did you play it competitively, casually? How did you do it?
Well, it didn't really have like a strong competitive scene, but I just played in local tournaments in Poznań, in my home city. So I just traveled every weekend to the LGS, and we had like tournaments for sometimes even like 30, maybe even 40 people, which was pretty nice, and just battled.
How young were you at the time?
11, 12 to 15, something like that.
Okay. Was it challenging traveling to play in those card game tournaments? I know it's not Magic, but it's similar. So what was it like that time?
So I mostly played locally, so I just had to, take a bus to get there. So just wasn't really challenging to travel. I did not really do much traveling to other cities or other countries like I do with Magic nowadays. So it was like kind of a kids version of that, which is kind of appropriate and like probably also intended to be that way. I assume that like just the entire presence of Duel Masters was kind of supposed to like get kids interested, and then like that maybe they would switch to Magic. That was a successful marketing strategy.
Okay, so it seems to have worked, and you found your
Yeah.
way to Magic eventually. And
Yes.
what was the game like? I mean, Duel Masters. So it's actually similar mechanically to Magic, or
Yeah, it's pretty similar mechanically to Magic. You like with the main two differences being that you can play every card as a land. You can add any of your cards to your mana zone, and they just tap for mana every turn, just like a land. And instead of life points, you had a system of shields, which were 5 cards put face down before you, and when you attacked your opponent, you actually broke one of their shields instead of dealing damage. So when you broke the shield, they actually picked up the card and added it to their hand, which was also a pretty interesting balancing factor in the game, where it balanced the aggression. If you got aggressive, then your opponent got card advantage, basically, which there was tension here. And besides that, it was like pretty similar. Like you had creatures, you had like spells, and just like in Magic.
so that's interesting because for a lot of people, whether it's Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon, they play another game, then they get
Mm-hmm.
into Magic. Magic is not necessarily the first card game that they play. So when you got into Magic later, did you mentally compare it to Duel Masters? Like, did you find that Magic was good in some ways, but maybe not so good in other ways? Like, or were you just committed to Magic? I'm not sure how a young mind works. I guess everybody's different too. So,
Well, a way I would describe it is that once I started playing Magic, then like of course the theory of Magic was like more developed, and more people had discussions about that, and you could read online about articles about what card advantages and all of that. I didn't really have access to like much of that when playing Duel Masters. I just hang out on online forums with like other people in my age, and we just were kind of like trying to think of some like concepts of like why is a certain card good, or why is a certain card bad, but weren't always able to fully maybe uncover that or realize that or put that into words. So like once I started playing Magic, I kind of like I've noticed which effects people say are good, which effects are weak, like what's like card advantage, which I mentioned, and etc. And lots of things about the previous game started to make sense to me. So like I was like, oh, I guess that's like it makes sense. That card was like actually a 1 for 2, or like this card was like also required me to use more resources, but was very efficient, which was also why it was strong. So that's mostly how it went for me.
so Magic allow you to find the language, like the way to maybe express something that you intuitively knew before, but it was not
Yeah,
fully formed. I guess also learn about these things too, right?
yeah, you could say that, yeah.
Okay.
But also, like, of course, with having access to a wider pool of knowledge and theory developed, I was just able to realize many times where I was, for example, wrong in my Duel Masters card evaluation, and I just like liked some cards a lot because I thought they were cool for one reason or another, and not because they were actually comparatively strong. So like also like those tournaments were never like a big thing, really. It was just, as I said, local things happening each weekend, just things you go to spend time mostly. So I was like kind of trying to win, but it was not my premier motivation. I would say I did take a lot of enjoyment in building, decks in a certain way, and towards the end of my Duel Masters adventure, I was just coming to the local tournaments with like a 70 card control deck, which the minimum was 40. The minimum
Okay.
amount of cards was 40, so like most people would say that it was optimal to play 40, but I played a 70 cards 5-color control deck, which used some cards that added the top 10 cards of my deck to my mana zone, so I needed my deck to be a little bit bigger, and then I looped some effects that destroyed my opponent's mana cards, and it was fun, especially if you were like faced off against someone who was like even more casual and kind of didn't, wasn't used to a strategy like that. You get to kind of bully people and destroy all their mana with some silly loops. But it was not like that. Like, it was probably not an optimal way to build a deck, but it was like a fun way to build a deck. So that's what I arrived at towards the end.
Sure. This is really interesting to me because I know where you are at now. You are a very high level, accomplished, competitive Magic player. But if you go back to that time and when you first started playing Magic, was there some sort of point in time that you made a shift to fun? I would argue you're still having fun today. I think you are, but you find a balance. But like, when was there like a delineation of becoming more seriously about winning? Maybe another way to ask the question is like, when did you change your thinking about a card game?
So yeah, that's a pretty good question, and a thing that I also used to thought about quite a lot. But when I started my journey with Magic, at first I played like totally casually. I had some kind of a terrible deck that I went to FNMs with.
So similar to your Duel Masters style, right?
Yeah, even worse maybe. Like, actually, one of the first like FNMs I went to was in Modern, but I bought an Izzet versus Golgari dual deck. I took the Izzet side and I just like changed a few cards and went with it. So I actually played with Brainstorm because it was in that deck at a Modern event the first time I played, only to realize mid-tournament when my opponents told me that actually you are not supposed to play this card in this format, which was odd. They sold this deck to me at the shop, so I thought I'm able to play it, but turns out...
game.
Yeah. So, that over time I just gained a better understanding of the game, and I just went out to look for a deck to buy, to commit to start playing, and I was specifically not looking for like a tier 1 deck, but just tried to buy something that I thought was really funny. So I was scouring some internet forums at that time, MTG Salvation to be exact mostly, and I found a thread that described the Amulet Titan Summer Bloom deck, which at that time was like an absolute meme deck and no one played it, and maybe like there was one or two people on Magic Online having some results with that, but in most people's eyes it was like not really a deck. It was just like a funny thing, and I was like, oh yeah, that's neat. Like the combination of Amulet of Vigor and Bounce Lands and Summer Bloom into Primal Titan just all fits so neatly into one thing, and you get to summon a Primal Titan on turn 2. That's pretty cool. I went out and bought the deck, and then quickly I was surprised how well I started doing at my FNMs, and I was surprised by the effectiveness of that.
So you were not expecting it to be so...
Yeah. I was like not expecting the deck to be strong, and also I was not expecting me to be a player who can be particularly successful competitively in the game. So it was just an entirely for fun adventure at the time for me. But once I just realized that it's actually possible for me to win a good amount, that became interesting and something that I wanted to pursue. And then somewhat quickly after that, I installed Magic Online, and then it just was an avalanche. I bought
you got serious quite quickly, it sounds like.
Yeah, well, like, it was like me installing Magic Online was like a year and a half or 2 years since I first played Magic, so like it's probably, I'm shortening this story a little bit, but the middle parts were not maybe that thrilling.
Okay, I really want to know how your mind works because I know there are players, and I'm generalizing. They go through
Hmm.
their whole Magic career never installing Magic Online. Never. Maybe nowadays it's easier with Arena, right? Because it's more supposedly accessible.
Hmm.
I'm in the pro Magic Online camp, by the way, so I'm biased as well. But um, was there something particular though that made you want to um, get into Magic Online? Because like some players happily just play paper tournaments or paper events. Like there must have been something, or are you just the kind of person who just once you're down a path, you just want to like either level up really fast or just explore all the ways that you can play as much as possible?
Yeah, so I wanted to explore as much as I could, but also there was one guy locally who just, nudged me into that direction and told me, hey, I think you should try Magic Online because like you're doing well here on those at those local tournaments. Maybe you could
So
do
he saw
well
your
online.
potential because you were winning the local events.
Seems like that. Yeah, seems like that. Seems like it. So there was also the prospect of earning MTGO tickets, which was thrilling because the dollar USD to Polish zloty exchange rate was pretty thrilling. And yeah, I didn't really have a source of income or something. I was living with my mom, and I thought it's gonna be interesting to try. And I went to Modo. I like played my first MTGO daily because we had dailies back then and not
Oh yeah.
prelims, no leagues.
Hmm.
And I free won the first one, and I was like, huh, okay. I guess I can do it too. And then if you go to my MTG Goldfish page, it's just like all Amulet Titan dailies every every day
And
back in
despite
that
it
time.
even being less powerful back then, that's quite impressive, I think.
Well, I think relatively to like all of the other things that existed was actually very powerful. It was just unknown, which also was even better for it.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think I kind of struck gold by utterly, accidental. I don't know. I could have been looking at that MTG Salvation forum. I could have found like, I don't know, a blue Tron deck, bought that, and then we would never talk because
Do you ever
the
think
butterfly
about that?
effect
Like
would.
if you just found it, yeah, butterfly effect. If you just found a different deck, survivorship bias, right? Like you just
Yeah,
wouldn't be here today.
yeah, very could very well be right.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just happened to find Amulet to be a really funny deck, and then look where we are now. Like what I've been streaming for the past 3 months is like every day an Amulet Prelim, and I'm also doing well with that. So kind
All
of
right, so
like
you've
going
never gotten tired of
full
the deck
circle.
despite playing it like literally thousands of times or whatever, you know?
No, no, I did get tired of it at times, but I just kind of
It comes and goes.
yeah, it comes and goes. Right now it goes really hard. So
Yeah, that is cool. So you're actually relatively new to Magic the Gathering because basically I can infer that the modern format already existed. For some reason I thought you might have played Magic earlier than that, but you're relatively new to all this.
I mean, yeah, relatively. Like, if it is funny that we use that term. Well, I've been playing for a decade because a decade is a long time in like most
Sure.
fields of life. But yeah, I
Yeah.
guess relatively compared to like other, let's say, PT players. My first Magic Online daily result is on 2014 August.
Okay.
So yeah, around that.
So I want to know, this is always a difficult question because it's very hard to objectively look at yourself, but what would you ascribe your early success in Magic to? Like, can you deconstruct why it was that you were even able to win those initial events locally with Amulet?
I think. Hmm. It's not the easiest question to answer, as you said, but I think to this day I am much better at playing decks and strategies and formats where I can just get to play my deck over and over and rehearse every matchup 100 times. I'm much worse at improvising and like playing standard, where you have to be or limited, where you have to be quick on your feet and be able to adapt without pre-planning. So I think it's just because first, like, the Amulet deck happened to be really strong, and second, I just committed to it. And I was for a long time, I think I wasn't actually particularly good at Magic, but I was good at the Amulet Titan deck, and that was good enough. That was all I played, and it was like good enough to 3-1 most of my, or 3-1 or 4-0 most of my dailies.
Okay. So you're saying practice and repetition and almost specializing in something at the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, now my next question is, how do you go from 3-1 dailies to top 8ing a PT, or even getting into PTs? Like, there had to be maybe you're just one of the best Magic players in the world, but there had to be some sort of process, right? How did you do it?
So the first PT I attended was PT Dragons of Tarkir, which was also in 2015, so it was pretty early. And once again,
I have a lot of early success. Yeah,
I kind of stumbled upon it, really. There was like a group of people from Poznań coming to GP Milan in December of 2014. So, I went with them. I took my Amulet deck, and I was just there for a nice trip, not expecting much, but I was able to top 8 that tournament, which granted me a qualification for the PT in Brussels, Dragons of Tarkir, in May next year. It was, again, unexpected, like not something I was striving to. I know, like, maybe it's like maybe a bit odd or different, but I think...
So you didn't put a ton of expectation on yourself.
Yeah. So, like, I assume most people that get on the PT, they do that after striving to get there for quite some time. But with me, I kind of barely knew what the PT was. At the time, I kind of knew like that something like that existed, but I didn't really know any of the, pro players that some people liked to.
So it's like, great, I top 8'd the GP, so I guess I'll go.
Yeah. It was more like that. So, like, in fact, like, my approach, it was a standard PT. So, as I said, a format that I considered myself weaker at. And back then, my testing process for that first tournament was pretty funny, because I kind of realized that I was good at Amulet and maybe good at combo decks. That was what I thought. But I really didn't want it to play on an even mid-range ground, let's say, with other players. So the way I prepared for the PT, I just picked up a combo deck that existed back in that standard format. It was Jeskai Ascendancy, Retraction Helix, Sylvan Caryatid combo, which was not like particularly great, but I just committed to playing it, and that was like all I tested with. And I guess I even did all of my testing on cockatrice against myself. Okay. Because I don't know, that was just how I went about it. So all I did, I was goldfishing the other decks against my Jeskai Ascendancy deck. It seemed to be able to win a good enough amount of times, and that's good enough for me as preparation.
Is that how you approach Magic back then? Is just have a proactive game plan and just make the opponent
react to you? For sure. I really wanted to, play a combo deck and play, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
If you don't stop me, you're dead. Like, I'm just going to goldfish you in the match.
Yes. That's how I wanted to play.
Okay. And how did you do in that first PT? What did you learn, I guess?
Well, I learned that there is much more to learn from seeing how people play, and I was actually, there was also like a funny thing happening. I sit down for my first draft, and back then they stopped to do it nowadays, but back then they had a tradition where at the beginning of the PT, the head judge welcomed everyone and said, hello, everyone playing at their first PT, please stand up, and then like everyone welcomed them at the PT or like gave them a little ovation. They stopped doing that right now because I guess it could also be singling out those, and so like some people might not want to be singled out in that way. But at my pod, I think 7 out of 8 people stood up. So it was like a pod almost full of newcomers. Like the one guy who was just pod. Sitting. Yeah, was like looking at us like
I'm gonna slaughter
as you. As easy prey. But I think I got pretty lucky in my draft. I was actually able to 3-0 my pod to start with, which was also like kind of surprising to me. I don't think it was like a sustainable way to succeed in the limited like that, and I was proven right on day 2 where I got seated with a pod full of strong players. I remember I played against Paul Ritzel specifically, and just everyone slaughtered me because they were so much better at me. Their decks made so much more sense, and I stood no chance against those experienced limited veterans at that stage. But yeah, overall at the PT I did, I don't remember exactly, 9-7 probably, which was like shy of requalification, but
that seems really good nice for a first PT.
Yeah. You
won
more
happy. Than you lost.
Yeah, and it made it so that I wanted to come back. And after that, I actively started to try to come back and play in online PTQs and try to qualify.
Were you already fairly committed as a Magic player because of grinding on Magic Online?
Well, I was committed to grinding on Magic Online, and that was just something I did in my free time.
Right, for income or for a little bit of that, yeah.
Yeah, so this was kind of like a combination of a hobby and a little bit of income, and it was just very nice to keep doing something that I was successful at, because I was like more successful than I expected. So it was certainly, there wasn't a reason that would make me stop, right? I was just like, yeah, I guess I'll play Under daily because it's nice and it's thrilling to play, and you get to you get to go 3-1, win your prizes again. Well, it's cool, and then you get to try again next day.
Right. So take me from playing your first PT to top 8ing a PT, which I believe is in 2017.
Yeah.
What kinds of things did you do to level up your game? I assumed you leveled up your game. It wasn't just luck, so...
I assumed I leveled up my game too. I think part of like what forced me to level up my game a little bit was that at some point Summer Bloom eventually got banned. So I didn't get to just stick to that one forever. And I had to branch out into doing a little bit of something else. But let me think. How did I qualify for that one? I can't remember. How did I qualify for that?
Were you consistently on the Pro Tour train? Did you reach a status where you just repeated, or
No. It was like my third PT ever, I think. Let me check that. I played Dragons of Tarkir, then I played Oath of the Gatewatch, which was Atlanta. That was the Eldrazi PT. 9-7. Yeah, 9-7 in both of those. And then the next one was PT Eldritch Moon. Okay, so
Ixalan was the fourth PT.
Ixalan was was the fourth PT I played. And I can't for the life of me remember how I qualified there right now.
So you don't remember if it was online or offline or which event? Okay.
It was probably like an RCQ, not RCQ, regional PTQ. Yeah, that's what it was called back then. So yeah, I got to play a few PTs before Ixalan.
Right.
And for Ixalan,
how did you work on it? Like, how did you work on your game or preparation, all that stuff?
For Ixalan, I knew that energy was the best deck. Everybody was saying that, and it seemed to be true. It was like the best mid-range deck. Mid-range decks were outside of my comfort zone, but I decided to step out of it and just play the best deck for once. I prepared a little bit by playing with it on Magic Online and with other players, and then it turned out to work well enough for me to top it. Which I think the crucial part about that PT, about my result, is that I was actually able to 5-1 the limited portion, which then let me be able to top it. I pretty consistently have been able to have pretty decent records in constructed the PTs, with limited always being my weaker side. So in this one, I'm not sure if I was like prepared particularly better or not. I did draft a lot of Ixalan, and I did kind of enjoy it. So maybe that helped, but no, actually, I only went 4-2, so my theory doesn't even work. Because my theory was that since I went 5-1 in limited, I was bound to top 8, but I just went 4-2.
But every person that top 8s or wins a Pro Tour has to run good, right? So did you feel like you were running especially good that day? Were you just making good decisions? It's all of the above, or what was it?
I think I ran well. Like sometimes you play a Magic tournament and you just like play a day of Magic, you go back, you went like 8-1 for example, and you think back on your matches and you're like, oh yeah, I guess this much I did win the die roll, and like this 6 other matches I also did win the die roll, and I guess in this match I needed to draw like my land on time, and I did. And there's just like some days when things just line up for you, so then it becomes easier to win. But yeah, I think I had like a solid deck. I think it was just like a solid deck. I made a reasonably good enough decisions, and I was able to crown that with a top 8, which then kickstarted my entire, let's say, career.
How did it feel in the moment? Like, I guess knowing that you were going to enter the top 8, did you put some level of expectation on yourself at that point? How did you feel?
I was very excited, and back then, around that time, I was striving to get to the PT and attain one of the statuses that were functioning back then, silver, platinum, gold, which would let me qualify for more things, and maybe with platinum, gain extra fees for attending, and that just seemed really attractive and seemed really cool to be able to play the game that I enjoy playing so much and that I commit so much time to anyways, and then also get paid for it. So that was kind of a little bit of a dream of myself. So sometimes I just I went to the pro club benefits page, and I just looked at the benefits and I was like, yeah, that would be really cool to attain someday. I was like not fully realistically thinking of ever attaining that, because just kind of a little bit of dreaming. But then at PTX, once I top 8, I was like, wow, okay, at this PT I get so many pro points. I actually like get silver immediately. I just need a little bit more to gain gold, and then maybe who knows what else is in reach. And that just really got me like excited in the prospect of turning it into a longer time venture at the time. Little did I know at the time, top 8 in PT Ixalan was also literally the best time ever to do that. If you were ever supposed to top 8 a single one, that was the best one because
of the events in the world.
Yes, that later on turned into the MPL, and that was the starting point of the MPL, the 2017
you
season.
maxed the train before the new train happened. Yes,
exactly. With like no knowledge of that, it just well, that was definitely I definitely was at the correct place at the correct time for that.
Okay, but I'm not going to let you off easy. I really still want to go back to, like, how did you level up to that point where you could have that potential to forward to a draft or top 8 a PT? Like, there must have been steps that you took. Maybe, like, people you work with, maybe, like, how you think about the game, you practice the game. There must have been something, right?
Yeah, I think one of the bigger level up moments I remember was in Limited. Where one of the stronger Polish players, Maciej Janik, he doesn't play Magic nowadays anymore, but he used to be, one of the Pro Tour players back when I was coming around. So I was like, looking up to him, let's say. And for some of the PTs, we ended up working together. He always viewed himself as a limited specialist who's like not particularly good in constructed, so like kind of an opposite of my view of myself. And he really like opened my eyes to how much I didn't see in limited. And for example, I thought I draft badly, and and that's the reason why I don't succeed in my draft games. But then, we sat down, we drafted a deck, like many times, we drafted a few decks, then we played some Magic Online games with those. And, pretty quickly, he just declared that I am not, in fact, a poor drafter, I just play really badly. And that the way I play my games is pretty terrible,
which is against the common wisdom. Usually, people think that the drafting is the key part, right?
Yeah. And he goes like, "No, your decks are like perfectly fine. I could draft those the PT. I'll be fine with that. I wouldn't mind."
So
but
it's drafted
just,
fine and also built fine, but just not played optimally.
Yeah, but the way you play those games, it's really bad, kanister. You're just like, So and like he opened my eyes to like so much things about, I don't know, usage of mana or like playing around opponent's cards and just like basic reading of what my opponent has. Somehow like I don't know, I just didn't grasp that anything of that was possible, and I think it really helped me. Still, like, I don't consider myself to be particularly strong at limited, but I'm definitely better than I used to.
How are you able to take the feedback? I feel like most players, especially once they've become already fairly accomplished as you were, I would imagine there's some sort of your ego or yourself that might be difficult to take the feedback, but how are you able to open up and actually internalize that?
Well, so that happened specifically in Limited, where I had a lot less ego. So it was easier to take the feedback because I was sure of the authority that he had over me in that matter.
You had respect for him as a stronger player. Okay.
But certainly, I guess my ego was getting into the way of learning more about playing constructed. And like, I remember that I had some silly arguments with my friends where I tried to like argue that there is like not that much skill involved in playing Magic well, and like that anyone could play those cards. And like looking back to it, like the arguments I presented were really not so strong and kind of silly, but I had that strong
Confidence?
confidence
Okay.
in my head that like I was thinking that like I win on Magic Online because Amulet is great and like no one else knows that, and I just like accidentally discovered it, and I have like a deck advantage, but like actual playing of games is easy for everyone. But then also learning from Maciej that I play my game so badly limited that made me think that, oh, okay, well, maybe there's more to it than I thought in Constructed 2, and
Because now you can,
just
if you take
opened
that
myself
feedback,
to
you're kind of
the
going back. Yeah.
opened myself to the idea that maybe I still have a lot to learn, and I did. So I started expanding as a player, play more
And
stuff, and
how did you learn to become a better, like it sounds like you had to learn or maybe relearn certain play styles, like how to play mid-range or how to play certain archetypes, right? Like how did you do that?
well, I would say I had to like learn how to play those styles. I still avoided them for a long time, and I was mostly succeeding when I was like when I had a format and a deck that I liked. So I kind of just picked my spots to succeed. I'm looking through my all the results, and I guess a few of the points when I started branching out my strategies, I began to play Death's Shadow decks around 2017-18. So that was like maybe because and Lantern control.
Lantern control, yeah.
But let me think on your question a little bit more. So
Like how to
I
play
don't
better in general, I guess. What was your process?
I don't really know. It's kind of odd. I'm trying to like come up with a satisfying answer, but it's a little bit rough. I just played a lot and like expanded a little bit, and at times I was able to break through and succeed a little bit. With
I guess it's like I know I am nowhere near the level of player you are even back then, but I always have this like experience where like you can play a lot of Magic, but some people they just never, like me, we never get past a certain level. Like there had to be something that you did to break through at the PT level. Like it's not trivial. So of course it's very hard to answer this question. It's like, okay, why is kanister kanister? But like I'm still curious. Yeah. Like did you
so
study like your plays? Did you like coach yourself or get coached? Like I don't know, because I often hear, and I believe it, is that just playing more doesn't necessarily lead to better results unless you are doing some sort of intentional practice. Maybe your mind works differently, so I don't know.
I I think like of course like just playing doesn't work, but playing a lot just means that I think a lot about, if I pick up a deck and I play a lot of it, that just means that I organically will end up thinking about it a lot. And then like the thinking part, just thinking through the common play patterns. I rarely do the thing where I observe my uh, replays and try to learn from that. Frankly, I have always found that to be extremely boring and just never really wanted to put myself to
I
do
find
that.
that boring too. I'd rather
So,
just play another match.
it is probably more efficient to, try to think through a replay, because then like from one replay probably can get more thought. But if you are gonna play the same matchup 10 times, you probably are gonna like, at least I will get to some conclusions at the end, and also like I will get to see different situations, and I see that in myself to this day. Like whenever I pick a deck and I just commit to it for a long time, I just getting to play any given matchup over and over. It just lets me think through the situations and then try to come up with solutions. So I just, I learned that there is much more to learn, and I try to slowly expand my range and try to talk to players better with me and try to stick to the things, learn how a given deck works in a given format as much as I can, and take advantage of the way I'm wired, I guess, as much as I can.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you're somebody who benefits from just like sheer force of will, or maybe like force of will plus commitment, extreme commitment to one thing, to the point where you're thinking about it all the time, you're going through it all the time, you're practicing all the time. So it's really that like high level of commitment that it starts from.
Yeah, that sounds good. And
okay, sorry, I don't know if I'm putting words in your mouth, but that's how I'm interpreting.
That's a good interpretation. That's like how I think that too. I'm not entirely sure about the term force of will, because I think in many ways
determination. I don't know if it's
in many ways, like, the process is kind of lazy in that I
maybe you're just stubborn. I don't know if it's determined or just stubborn.
Yes.
Yeah, you're just gonna make it work, better. Right? Yeah.
yeah. Because as we said, you can make it more efficient by taking a more intelligent approach to analyzing a replay. But no, I'm just gonna play.
So somebody else will analyze their 5 matches. You'll just play like 500 matches or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll get the same level of analysis in the end, but I'll also gain more instant, short-term gratification of getting to play Magic games instead of just looking at one over and over.
I think you won was it already called the MC already in 2019? That's when that's the event that you won, right? So how did that change your career in any way? Or how did it change Magic for you in any way, I should say?
So I would say Magic was changed for me earlier already, since the MPL has already started, and that has been going on for almost a year at that time. And as soon as MPL hit, I knew I'm able to do it full time and be a magician and earn my living that way. So I would say that winning that specific tournament changed anything like in such a fundamental way as the beginning of the MPL. But of course, it was an incredible amount of prize money, and it was also an invitation to Worlds, which I was excited to go to and participate in. It was also, a very nice trip to Hawaii, so pretty cool overall. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I also have to mention that while I won that tournament, it never registered to me or felt like a Pro Tour.
Okay.
So I don't really feel like a Pro Tour winner. I don't feel like I have that as my accomplishment.
NPL event, not winning a Pro Tour.
Yeah, it just feels different. The way it all went about, the MPL. Then by then the, let's say, overall sourness around the MPL also began to manifesting pretty. So
you felt sour about
hard.
the MPL even though you were in the MPL.
No, I just mean let's say community-wise. I didn't feel particularly sour, but I did feel.
Yeah, it wasn't the most popular thing in the community, right?
Yeah. Yes. It didn't have it just didn't feel like the same type of a thing, the same type of an achievement. And it's it never registered like that as such to me. So it was nice to win. It was a very emotional tournament too. I remember when I was playing for the top 8 against Mengucci, who also I had history back at the Mythic Invitational earlier that year, where he was able to best me in the finals of that.
That's
tournament.
the one that he won, right? The first.
Yes, that's the one that he won, which was also the Magic tournament with the highest
prize pool. Yeah,
which like it's insane if you think about it. It doesn't really fully make sense, but
yeah.
I was playing as Mengu, so I was like, yeah, Mengu, my arch rival, and I got to best him in like some close games and get to the top 8. And when I came off the stage, because we had the like nice MPL stage where we sit down at the computers,
right,
in front of each other. Yeah. So like when I left that stage, this was one of the times where I physically felt the stress, and like my chest was just kind of aching from my heart just pumping so hard, because because I got so into it and so stressed by the situation. But again, I would like to win a Pro Tour someday. I would not be against that, and like I don't particularly feel like I don't feel like I have that achievement yet.
If you played,
that feels different.
If you played now in the new Pro Tour system and you won a Pro Tour, the new one, would it feel the same as winning a Pro Tour in the past?
Yes, or at least for sure it would feel more so
than MC. Okay.
I think it would feel like winning a Pro Tour. Okay. I think like the vibe
and that's
is similar
because
enough.
Of not just the name. It's because of the steps one needs to do to play in the new PT and things like that, right? It's not just because it's the same name.
Yeah, and like the fact that it's achievable for
everybody.
I'm not sure if that fully makes sense, but like it's achievable to get to the PT for everyone, and anyone can show up there as long as they have proven themselves by acquiring the qualification, and then you just fight through those people and you best a large enough amount of them and you become the winner. With the DMC system, it felt a bit more artificial, and the MPL system just meant that all of the MPL players were like kind of stuck in the system because it was like supposed to provide a long-term occupation for them. And so you could.
But would you not argue that the MPL system was tougher because everybody you played every round was indeed a higher skill level?
You could argue that, yeah. On top of that, there was also like extra invites, which were like, sometimes
right, there were the special invites.
Yeah, you could be a streamer and get invited for that to play in the MC. That I think that kind of muddled it up for me vibes wise.
So it wasn't a pure merit type of qualification. Yeah, I'm using my words. You don't have to agree with me. I mean, it's just that's my words. Okay.
Yeah, that's like how I understand. Of course, like you could have like lengthy discussions about like merit, etc. But just the way I feel about it is the way the vibes go for me. That's how that's how I feel about it.
So during the MPL era, is that when you started streaming and doing content?
Actually, the first time I streamed,
you did earlier. Okay.
Yeah, I did that earlier. The first time I streamed was right before, a few months before PT Excellent. So I just started streaming Lantern Control. That was my deck at the time. I was just committing to it the same way I committed to Titan earlier, and that was just the thing I was playing over and over. And I started just streaming, Lantern Leagues for like 20 people on Twitch.tv.
Do you remember why you started streaming? Like, was there a particular reason? You just wanted to have fun? You wanted to share that? Or what was it?
I wanted to have fun. I remember going to Twitch and enjoying my time spent in other streamers' chats. For example, one player I could streamer player I could cite as my inspiration is actually Misplaced Ginger, who shows up on Twitch to this day sometimes, but I just enjoyed hanging out in his chat in like early 2017 or 16 and shitposting and just cracking jokes and just sometimes watching the game, sometimes not.
He definitely has a certain style to his streams, that's for sure, and his streams and his Twitch chat. Yeah, so you're a part of that.
Yeah. Okay. So I really liked that, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Maybe I could try that myself. And I had some like pedigree on Magic Online as a recognizable name because people knew the name Kanister and they knew it means Lantern Control. Yeah, they knew it meant Amulet Titan. Lantern
so you can put in the headline for Twitch like Kanister plays Lantern Control and people will come, right? Because they you have some name.
Yeah. I think like one of the first things I did was I written a lengthy Reddit post on r/spikes about a guide for Lantern Control, and in it I said that I'm going to start streaming now, and like it probably a few of the like initial like 20 or so viewers came from there.
I mean, that's the hardest thing is in the beginning of being a streamer, right? Like, because you have people that sometimes they have 0 people or 1 person watching. So I guess you're able to, what's the term? Like bootstrap your
I was
stream.
able to have a minimal recognizability at first, which meant I didn't start from like absolute 0, but from just like a tiny bit, and starting from 0 is just impossible on Twitch, like especially nowadays. And starting from a little bit is hard and like unlikely to work out, but worked out well enough for me. Although it did take a long time till my stream became like, I guess, relatively popular. I'm not like a super popular streamer nowadays, maybe like in Magic terms, but in general.
Oh, I mean, Twitch is hard. I mean, Twitch even today has terrible discoverability. So it's like people, or maybe it's also just like people follow the top streamers. So if you're like, if people follow the top 5 and you're number 6, then they're just not watching you, right? That's hard.
Yeah, exactly. But like looking over my past month, I had 320 average viewers, which is I'm glad to have that. It's
it's
Cool.
solid.
But it's not like something I would call groundbreaking. But for the longest time, I didn't have that. It took until the MPL, where my viewership actually started to grow from like 2-digit numbers to 3-digit numbers, I guess.
Because and you had the contract to do it, and you had to increase viewers. Okay.
Yes.
So that's when you took it seriously? So before then it was, or is that fair to say, or were you already serious about streaming?
I was not particularly serious.
Or just stubborn about streaming. I don't know.
I guess I was stubborn. I did just play a lot of Magic Online, and I did stream a little bit when I played, but I committed to having a schedule and being consistent and actually doing that as my main thing with the MPL contracts. And before that it was like more occasional, more rarer and inconsistent. So yeah, I did. It is fair to say that I did start taking it seriously with the MPL contracts, streaming contracts.
Okay, and this is like a really insider question, but when did you decide to do more on the YouTube side? Because now I'm seeing your YouTube videos. Obviously, some are just VODs, but others are more well edited. For example, your video on, vlogs themselves, but also the video on your consulting role for Lord of the Rings. Like, so, what's the evolution there? Like, was there some point in time you decided I'm going to take YouTube more seriously?
Yes. I have started to venture a little bit into YouTube lately, just kind of as like a project of mine or like a thing I want to like expanding my skills a little bit. So I do watch a lot of YouTube in my free time. That's like I do have a YouTube video on very frequently when I like do anything from cleaning or cooking or just doing sometimes just the audio on when I go do groceries and stuff like that. So I've been like enjoying that as a consumer myself, especially when it comes to like video essays about video games, which frequently I'm vaguely interested in, but I don't really have like a strong desire to sitting down and playing them myself. Like I don't really have like that much of a desire to sit down and play Dark Souls or other games that can sometimes take many hours to finish. But I do enjoy hearing people talk about them and analyze them, talk about things they enjoy in them and stuff like that. So just being a consumer of that, I thought that it might be nice to sometimes try to venture a little bit into that myself. So like I guess the way I would summarize that is that I enjoy listening to people who sound like they know what they are talking about. Which is like kind of what I like about those type of video analysis. So I thought I do know a lot about Magic, and perhaps maybe there is something that I could interest my viewers with by creating a more like essay type video. Like I haven't done too much of that just yet, but I do.
But some of the recent ones are quite well done, like the Pioneer Phoenix Guide, I think it was. You've done something like that where you're kind of an expert. You break it down, right? And
yes. So like that's what I want to do. I also enjoy. It's a little bit of a painful process, but I enjoy learning editing a little bit because I'm doing that.
I was going to ask if you hired an editor, or you did it yourself. So you're doing that yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing that myself. It's a arduous process. Sometimes broke up by a lot of going to YouTube and typing how to do X in Adobe Premiere Pro, watching the video, trying to recreate that. For some reason it doesn't work because I have some like secret setting turned on, getting angry, finding another video, finding the solution, and then step by step.
It's okay because you're kanister, you're stubborn, so you'll find a way, right?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. So it's also like enjoyable to learn a skill like that. So I've been enjoying working on those YouTube videos from time to time lately. Maybe just maybe if I build a big library of cool YouTube videos, my channel will blow up and become extremely profitable. But also likely not. But I am happy having it as my extra side project besides streaming. Sometimes I don't feel like streaming, and then I get to sit down and do work by myself without a chat of people watching me and judging my every movement.
Have you felt burned out from the content stuff at any point, like from streaming or YouTubing or maybe even playing Magic?
I for sure did. Yeah, I had been struggling with that a little bit this year. I think like mentally this year kind of changed a decent amount of things for me, which was connected to.
Do you know what caused it? Like, is it life events or what?
Yeah, I was like about to get to it. Like at the beginning of the year, I did get out of a long-term relationship with my previous girlfriend, which like kind of just, I think pretty frequently is a trigger for people to rethink their life and like how they want it to look like, and just like who do I want to be, what do I want to do, like what do I enjoy. Just kind of like was a wake-up call, and I started thinking about lots of stuff a lot, and At some point, I tried to like turn into an absolute content machine, and I wanted to stream for 8 hours like every day
Just go hard.
of a week,
Yeah.
just go hard. But I think that did burn me out a little bit this year, and it was just too much. I was just trying to do too much stuff because I wanted to do that, then I wanted to finish my stream and open Adobe and work on my YouTube videos. It was just too much, and it was a lack of balance in my life at that point. So I eventually was able to settle up into a more healthy and more reasonable let's say rhythm of streaming and working. But I certainly struggled with that a little bit. On top of that, I think a part of my struggle with the burnout was caused by the fact that this summer in Barcelona, PT Lord of the Rings was happening, and it was the first PT in 2017,
in years.
6 years. Yeah, in 6 years, which I didn't get to participate in because I did not manage to requalify. I have fallen like one match short at the previous PT in Minneapolis that year, which also stung. And I just had to sit that one out. So that was not so nice, and it was like also
I'll just say
made me question.
It sounds heartbreaking, like just to not be able to.
Yeah. I was like certainly made me also question my ability to play at the higher level. I think my Magic Online results also weren't particularly great throughout like the first half of this year because I was just trying to play so much. I was trying to be a jack of all trades, I would say. I wanted to play in every format. I wanted to succeed in every challenge. I wanted to triple Q challenges on weekends. And let me tell you, it's just as we talked, right? The way I'm wired, when I'm good at the game is when I get to rehearse for dozens of times and I get to really know what I play, why I make my decisions, and how I make them. I was basically trying to be a jack of all trades, but without realizing that I will also become a master of none then. And I was trying to play all the formats. I was trying to brew new decks. I was trying to, shuffle my decks around and be good at all of them, but that's just not doable. And consistently, I have found out that I only get good at the game when I commit to a certain way of playing, as I have mentioned before. So yeah, it was just like too much for a time, and for a while I just thought that I need a break from streaming. So around September this year I just kind of reduced the amount of hours that I spend on streaming. I have decided that I will only stream with decks I like, and I'll just, I came back to playing Amulet Titan, and if you look at my Goldfish page now, it's all Amulet Titan prelim free ones for like the past few months, which, basically the same stream every day if you want to look at it this way, but also I think there is an enjoyable...
So you're finding your enjoyment, your happiness with Magic again.
Yes. So I'm finding my enjoyment again. I am playing in the ways I enjoy. I stopped trying to like do things that I don't actually enjoy too much, like trying to brew new decks, which is fun when it works, but it doesn't work 95% of the times, and then it's extremely painful for me. So it's the EV is just not there.
But why did you want to do that? Was it because you felt like you needed to provide more variety? You wanted to challenge yourself, or there are other reasons?
Yeah, I wanted to provide. Yeah, I mean, also I've seen what's successful on Twitch.tv. I've seen the success of other players, and for example, like headlined by Aspiring Spike, who like comes up with a new deck
Brewer
every stream suddenly. Certainly, and I was like, oh yeah, maybe I could try to emulate a little bit of that for myself, but it's just something that became clear doesn't work for me, and something that I'm not interested in. So it just took a while to, I guess, mature and realize that I will do what I want to do, because I am in a position where I get to make that choice.
So it sounds like better understanding yourself and who you are as a Magic player.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So now it's a little bit better. Like, it sounds like you're still going to try to qualify for PTs, right? So you'll continue playing.
Well, in fact, I am qualified for Chicago, the next one. So
okay.
Yes, I actually, right before the regional championship in Lille, which happened in September, which was the one qualifying for Chicago. I took a little bit of a break from Twitch. I didn't stream as much or even at all for most of the month. I took a little bit of a vacation. I went to hike in the Polish mountains for a week with a nicely non-Magic friend. So we couldn't even talk about Magic because he doesn't know anything about that. So we just hung around and hiked, and it was pretty nice and cleared off my mind. I was able to come back stronger, focus on playing Phoenix for 2 weeks off stream, practice well, qualify for Chicago, and felt like good old times where I was able to commit to working on something and then succeeded thanks to that.
Right. It's moving my cat here. It sounds like you're in a pretty good place with relationship with Magic at the moment then.
I think I'm in a better place than I was at the beginning of this year, which I'm happy about.
Okay. So now, if it's okay, I'd like to do a rapid fire 5 questions that's Magic related.
Sure.
Number 1, what's the best Magic play you ever made?
The best Magic play I ever made. It's really hard. Because it's really hard to it's much easier to find bad plays than it is to identify great ones. And what one would describe as a great play is sometimes just kind of tricking someone into stuff. One of the widely recognized best plays in the history of Magic the Gathering, the LSV vampire token movement. But in I think in actuality that play is also it's kind of silly more so than a great play. It's really hard to say.
Okay, so maybe what's the best? Do you have any idea what's the most memorable Magic play you ever made? Maybe not strictly the best, just something that you remember quite well.
My most memorable Magic play is also my worst play. So
go ahead.
Yeah, my worst play is actually well documented and recorded, available on YouTube. It was Pro Tour, I believe it was Cleveland, Guilds of Ravnica or Ravnica Allegiance, and I was playing limited. I was playing against Michael Bonde. We played in the feature match area, so we had the knowledge of each other's deck list, because back then in the feature match area the deck lists were open. Outside of that they were not open. That was because you could be streamed, so they wanted to avoid that. So I knew his deck. My deck was a deck where I had 2 Gate Colossus, some strong multicolored cards, and overall it seemed to line up pretty nicely against Bonde's Orzhov deck, which contained almost no removal. I think he just had no removal that could kill Gate Colossus. So we're playing a game. I get a Gate Colossus into play. I feel pretty good about myself because he doesn't really have any cards that line up too well against that. And then he plays some creatures and passes with 1 mana up. I draw a card, and I look at my hand. It contains 2 copies of Applied Biomancy. It's a Simic instant. One of your creatures gets +1/+1, and you bounce a creature to its owner's hand. So, Bonde on 10 life. I have the Colossus. The Colossus cannot be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Bonde's board is a 3/3, a 2/2, and a 1/2. So I'm like, yeah, I guess I win. He cannot interact with my Colossus for 1 mana. So excitedly, I play my 2 Biomancies. I pump my Colossus to 10, and I point at 2 creatures on Bonde's side. He bounces them back to his hand, and I attack with the Colossus. Then he blocks. And I'm like, huh? And turns out that I pointed at 2 of the smaller creatures, and I left his 3/3 in place. So he was actually able to block the Colossus, which I pumped, which then turned out to be the bane of me. I actually ended up losing this game in like some convoluted fashion. It went on for a while, but it was really like a misclick IRL. Just so like, I think maybe it was like because I was so used to streaming at the time too. Sometimes when you stream, you just click buttons more so than you play. And I think I really just clicked buttons back then. Like my only reaction to that play was just to like start laughing at the absurdity of the situation. But of course, like it was Michael and not me who walked away with a match slip signed in his favor from this match. So it was also pretty hard to like get over. But that's certainly my most memorable play.
How long did it take you to get over it?
I don't know. To this day, sometimes I think about it, and I just like Then I thought about it more. It also turned out that even if I like pointed at the correct creatures, I also could have still lost because there was like an even more technical way to use those Biomancies that I was supposed to play around his +2/+2 combat trick that he had 1 copy of in his sideboard, but it was game 2, so he could have brought it in, and it turned out that he did, which also was crucial on a later turn. So, like in reality, I was actually supposed to attack with the Colossus, use 1 of the Biomancies, bounce the 3/3 creature, wait for him to declare no blocks, and then pump the Colossus once again. But like that's also even further away from what I did, which was just throw 2 of them on the table and thinking that I win. And turns out I was there was a way for him to escape that.
What can I say? Magic's a hard game. So
yeah.
You're going from optimal play to perfect play. That's hard.
Yes, but also like this spot wasn't hard. Like if it was hard, then yeah, sure. I mean, I guess I just mentioned like how it was more complicated than I even thought at the beginning, but it wasn't particularly hard. Yet I still kind of wasn't able to properly go through it. That's like something that I kind of struggle when playing. I guess that question is not so rapid after all, but that is something that I struggle with when I play. Like I sometimes make those snap, quick decisions that are just so bad, like so simple yet so bad, but like I do them impulsively in the moment, and I kind of struggle to hold myself back sometimes and actually think through my plays.
But that's who you are as a player, right? Like we can't be perfect, and I think maybe sometimes those attributes also help you become a winning player.
For sure, it's like
having snap judgments or intuition sometimes helps, right?
Yeah.
Not in this particular instance. I'm just saying that it could be applied elsewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess, yes. A flip side of that coin would be that pretty often when I stream is, I make a play and then someone asks me, hey, why did you make this play? And I say, well, I don't know, like, and, they propose a different play for me to take. And I say, yeah, I don't know, like, I guess your play was better. But then I think hard about it for like the next 30 seconds. I'm like, no, actually, because of this, and this happening earlier, and like on an area.
So there's some intuition that maybe you can't even explain. Yeah, until later.
Yeah, so sometimes I have like that intuition that I, just have from being in a given situation in game for hundreds of times. I just kind of know what I want to do, but like sometimes I have trouble explaining that, and when pressed, I just like can't for a moment. I have to kind of recreate the paths that led to arriving at that decision.
But you've learned to trust your intuition as well, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, yeah, I'm going far away from the rapid fire questions too.
It's not always the most trustworthy. That's like the point. That's the point with the applied biomancy story, that it's not always the most trustworthy, and sometimes like just taking as little of a step back as thinking, okay, what are my actions this turn, instead of just playing my cards, would go a long way. So I think the issue, I guess we could identify the issue as sometimes trusting my intuition a little bit too much. That's how I would frame it.
Okay. Next question. What's your biggest level up moment as a player? Either a particular moment or a particular event?
That was the moment that we talked about with Maciej when we sat down and we just played some games of Limited, and he was like, yeah, I mean, you draft well, but your gameplay is terrible. And
gameplay could be better. Okay.
That's eye-opening. That felt like
right.
And a little bit of an enlightenment.
And do you have a favorite Magic travel story?
A Magic travel story. Does it have to be like connected to traveling itself?
No. It can just be something that happened while you were not at home. Basically, that's Magic related.
All right. So like I have a pretty silly thing that happened to me, which is unbelievable, at a Magic tournament, which it's a story that I told, a bunch of times on my stream already, but I guess I'll retell it here because maybe if anyone else can hear that, then good for them. So as I said, I was playing Amulet back in my past so much. I had an Amulet deck. One day at an FNM, I asked my good friend Jędrek, also known as TSP Jędrek online, to black border my summer blooms, because back then I did not enjoy the beautifulness of white border. I regret that now, but that's just how I felt back at the time. So he took a Sharpie and he filled the border with his black Sharpie so it looked like a normal card. But at the same time I went to the bathroom, and when I came back, it turned out that he also took his liberty to prank me a little bit and written some stuff on the perfect sleeves of my cards. So for example, he has drawn the Illuminati sign on my Amulet of Vigor, because there's like an eye on the Amulet set face, or like some other like funny comments on some other cards. And it's a prank
because it's on the sleeve, it's not on the card, right?
Yeah. And then also I need to show you a little bit of a item. I have a binder with funny cards, or cards that I just like enjoy for one reason or another. And one of the cards in there is this. It's actually flipped because of the camera, but it's Ambush, Instant Insect. It's a combination of Ambush Crotic and Ethereal Ambush from the set of Fate Reforged, which was the draft set at the time. So, I was drafting that set a decent amount, and I enjoyed how, I found it really funny how there was a card called Ambush something, and then there was a different card called something Ambush. So just turn them and combine them into ambush together, which was like really funny. It became sort of an in-joke, like to just repeat the same word twice in a card name sometimes between us.
Right.
So one of the other pranks that Jędrek did was write Titan on my Primeval Titan, so it turned into a Primeval Titan.
Okay.
Right? And I came back, I look at this and I say, oh yeah, thank you for like doing that to my Summer Blooms, but haha, your prank is very funny. And without thinking much of it, I just went on and I flipped my perfect sleeves the other way around to not have that on the front of my card.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, yeah, it was like I just wanted to get rid of the prank on the top of it. So fast forward a few months later, Grand Prix Copenhagen. I actually didn't play Amulet at that event. I played Grishelbrand. But one of my friends scrapped out of day one. And he wanted to borrow my Amulet deck for a side event on day two. So I say, sure, yeah, I hand him over the deck. Then in the middle of a round on day two, I play against someone summoning Lockstone Smiters. Like I remember, Lockstone Smiter used to be a great card in Modern, not so much anymore. But a judge comes to me and says, hello, can you please stop your match? I stand. He shows me my deck and asks me, hey, does this deck belong to you? I say, yes, that's my Amulet Titan deck. Okay, well, do you know of any ways in which the cards in your deck would be marked? And by then I had like no recollection of that event. It was just like something that happened at the between rounds. It was not something that I paid much mind to it. And I said, no, nothing comes to mind. Like that. Nope. And the judge says, okay, thank you for your time, walks away with the deck, and, I continue on with my match. I was like, yeah, that's weird. I don't know what's that about. Maybe, like, the sleeves were old or something and, like, would require some changing. I finished my match, and my friend who I lent the deck to finds me, and he's kind of furious.
He was
like,
interrogated.
What the hell? Like, why, how, like... Are you a cheater? Why is your deck marked? Why is your Titan marked as Titan on the back of it?
Mm-hmm.
And then like it clicked, and I'm like, oh crap, right? So that's the thing. that's why it was. That's what happened. That's why the judge was called over.
You inadvertently helped mark the deck for your friend, not even for yourself.
Yes. So. It's also like in the worst possible way, the way it like all confluenced into making so that the Titan had Titan written on top of its sleeve, right? Which is like the card you want to top deck the most Titan, in that deck.
Right? Yes, but now you're just marking it literally like this is the Titan card.
But it's also like the card you want to top deck the most when you're playing this deck. So it's like the most markable card that you would ever.
You made it maximally suspicious, basically.
It was so suspicious. It was like
because imagine if you had to explain that. Like you have to explain. Oh yeah, it was a joke that I had, and we did ambush and Titan. That's why.
And that is exactly what we did. Of course, we didn't want
you had to explain it.
I didn't want to leave my just friend ruined and probably banned for life from Magic because it just looks so bad. We found the judge. Me, Jędrek, and others, and we just explained the entire situation, and we said like there should be like an Illuminati sign on the amulet, I think. So like we pull the sleeve on the amulet, and there is the Illuminati sign. So he's like, okay. I did have the binder with me. I did have the ambush card to show us proof of my friend's innocence in this situation, which I think did help.
Okay, because but you understand, like, I 100% believe you and your story, but I could imagine a world where the judge is just like, yeah, these guys are just like creating a story so that they can get off. You know that, right?
Yes, I know that. But I think the ambush cards present in my binder was
it's too creative enough not to be true. It
was too crazy for the judge not to believe in. So unfortunately, I don't know like who the judge was.
Okay.
And what he is doing now, and what are his thoughts on the situation.
But none of you are banned, so that's good.
Yeah, but my friend ended up getting disqualified from the tournament because, well, the judge said that like there's no way that he cannot do that because it's just way too incriminating and way too.
That's the
too
judge's
bad.
duty, I think. Yeah.
But he did not get banned by the DCI, so like
thankfully.
It seemed like the.
Okay. So you didn't get your friend banned for life from Magic. That's good.
Yes. So as we sat with the judge and we explained the entire situation, we had to retell the entire story, show ambush as the proof of innocence. The judge just asked, okay,
this is like a trial. You have to produce the evidence. Yeah.
I think we had to put out a written statement. Like on a piece of paper. That's how those investigations go. And at the end of that, the judge asks me, hey, is there anything else that you think is marked in your deck? And I said, yes, there might be a penis on my forest, because that was like another thing that Jędrek drew.
I mean, you should tell everything. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's funny because you have to say it started when my friend was black bordering my card, and that's how it all started. You have to start from the beginning.
So that was like the most incredible like judge call I was involved in, and like a situation I was involved in, and it's just incredible how it all lined up in such a perfect way. Of course, I'm very sad for my friend having to get disqualified from a tournament for all of that, but was it worth it? Well, from like the greater story perspective, maybe it was.
It was for the greater good, and that is what's the saying? Truth is stranger than fiction. This is definitely the truth.
Certainly, in this spot it was.
Yeah. Speaking of Jędrek, was there some sort of conversation you had about Ojutai? Like, is it Ojutai? Whether Ojutai is a boy or a girl? Do you remember this?
Yeah, I remember this. That was also during an FNM one time. Once again, like some like in jokes piling on, and we are talking about something related to the cards, and at some point one of my friends asked me, "Hey, Kanister, you know a little bit about the lore?" Because sometimes I go to the wikis and I just look up the Magic lore because it's like vaguely a little bit interesting, not interesting enough for me to like read the entire stories, but I kind of just like to know what the cards represent and what are the situations represented on those cards. So he says, "Hey, Kanister, you know like about the lore, so you probably know if Ojutai is a boy or a girl." For some reason, it was relevant discussion. And I say, "Yeah, well, you see, it's not necessarily a useful question, because dragons of Tarkir do not reproduce sexually. They actually come from a dragon storm named the Dragon Tempest, and they just spawn into existence there." And he I went a little bit longer with a longer-winded explanation of like how that works exactly. And he looks at me in disbelief and says, "Wow, Kanister, like, why do you know this?" And I just with a straight face replied, "Homing, that's his name. That's my job." So that was
Magic
also
is my job.
Yeah.
I have to know. Okay. The dragons of Tarkir are genderless, have no gender. Okay. Okay, well, I guess I'll never make the mistake of saying that you're not a hardcore Vorthos or into the lore again.
In a way, I guess a little bit.
You already know just by this story, you know more than 99% of Magic players. So
probably
mission accomplished,
I guess.
Okay. If you were not a Magic player today, like a full-time Magic player, streamer, what do you think your job would be? Like if you in some sort of alternate timeline where you pick Blue Tron and you failed and you never get to the same heights because you picked Tron, what would you be doing today?
I thought about it many times and I couldn't really come up with an answer. When I started playing Magic, I was doing studies, college, I guess. And I was having a lot of trouble sticking to that and getting the same stubbornness in that field as I can easily evoke, as I could have easily evoked for Magic. So it certainly back then it did hack away at my, I guess, future prospects, because I think I certainly, it was easier for me to sit down and play a model daily once again instead of committing and preparing for an exam, for example. So I don't know how my life would go and look if Magic wouldn't have existed. Maybe I would be able to overcome my lack of commitment, or maybe not. So
no plan B. It was just all Magic at that point.
Yeah, which I didn't even view as plan A back at the time, because it wasn't like a feasible plan A. So it's been really nice for me that the universe randomized itself in such a way where the MPL started existing at the exact moment where I have became eligible for it, and then it just like turned out that instead of struggling for finding a way to shape my life, I get to do what I enjoy doing while being financially stable.
Mm-hmm. You're known for being very punctual or on time. Like, where do you think you get that from?
Say it again?
You're known for being very punctual. Like, I've heard your friends say that you're always early to Magic tournaments or appointment. Like, where do you think this? Why? Yeah.
That's massive. Okay.
Or maybe they're just always late. I don't know. Maybe it's all relative.
So, I assume you heard that from Jędrek? Because
no, actually, no. So it must be true, because it wasn't Jędrek that told me. It was your other friend.
That is interesting, because like I think if you asked Jędrek, then he would probably say that, but sarcastically.
Oh no,
but,
it was Matthias. It was Matthias.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So maybe in like Magic context, yeah, I guess I am. If I because with Matthias, I don't get a chance to live the daily life. So we meet like for Magic trips and tournaments, and then I am punctual, I guess, and I'm trying to be there on time. But in my casual life, I'm not exactly always known for casual life. I'm not exactly known for arriving everywhere on time, although I think I've gotten better at that over time.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird question, I guess, to ask, because I think all Magic players are pretty on time, because we don't want to miss the beginning of a round or a registration or something. So, yeah. I understand that you have quite a passion for music or going to live shows. What's the best concert or live show you have been to in the last 12 months?
I'm not sure if it was in the last 12 months, but one of the most enjoyable concerts I went to was a concert of a band named Vola, which is like a prog metal, let's say, band, and it happened somewhere in Poland. I don't remember the city, because like it was just like a trip to the.
Are they a Polish band, or they were just touring in Poland?
No. They are from Finland. So they were touring in Poland, and it was just like a really enjoyable show. I really like their music, and just the audio quality in that club was just incredible. So I enjoyed that plenty. It was like one of the better sounded concerts I went to, and it was just a really nice experience. And also like one of my favorite bands lately, so I enjoyed that plenty.
My last question for you: what is your signature go-to dish when you cook? What's your cooking version of Amulet, basically?
It's probably chili con carne. I also like enjoy just making stews in general, because you get to like, it's like it's easy from the practical sense, but also very tasty. And you get to, you know, make a big pot and then freeze parts of it for later use while enjoying what you've prepared now. So this type
Excellent.
of a dish.
Okay, I lied. There is one last question I wanted to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
The last question is, how did you come up with the name kanister? What's the meaning behind it?
So there is not much meaning. This is a pretty frequent question I get asked. So like a kanister is a, you know, it's spelled with a K, so like it's a Polish word. It's just a word for a canister, the same as in English, right? A container in which you most frequently store gas. And the simple reason is that it rhymed with it rhymed with something when I was in primary school, and like one of my friends was like, yeah, Mr. Canister, and then it rhymed and just stuck.
Okay,
so Mr.
so
Canister
just a
sounded
childhood
funny,
name
and
that
then
you started using.
yeah, and then it shortened to Canister, and I just use it as my online handle for everything, including Magic Online, and then it's stuck.
All right. Well, hey, it was great having a chance to talk to you today for Humans of Magic. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Humans of Magic. You've made it to the end. Thanks so much. You're awesome. If you'd like to support the show, there are 2 ways to do so. The first way is the most powerful. Tell a friend. Tell them to check out Humans of Magic. I'd love it if you could spread the word. The second way is to join the Humans of Magic Patreon at patreon.com/humansofmagic. Patreon is the best way to directly support the show from a financial perspective. For as little as $2 a month, you can support me and join the Discord. It gives me the power to keep cranking out new episodes with your favorite Magic people. If you want to go the $5 support route, you'll get a digital copy of the Humans of Magic book. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you, as always, making it all the way to the end, and we'll see you next time.